2. This time we are going to take one last week and we're going to look at textual analysis. It's sort of the next step, as it were, in what we are exploring in terms of writing. We've already done a lot of these steps. So we have read outside work, we've included a quote, and those are things we're going to do again. So our objectives here, to shorten them and really tighten them up, are to read and analyze a text. We have a short story. We want to read and analyze an academic article. I have 4 to start you off with. You only have to read one of them, but you can branch off from there if you'd like, and you can absolutely get my help in finding something different or better or stronger that you would prefer to look at. And we want to write that textual analysis essay. So what is this word, this idea, textual analysis? There are lots of ways to talk about how we look at literature, at how we look at stories. And essentially everything around us is a story. So we want to practice those skills. So in this case, we call it textual criticism. We may call it literary criticism, textual analysis, as we call it here. Criticism in this case is something that's really positive. It means that we ask difficult questions. So let's look at the definition and explore the ideas and how we're going to tackle this for textual analysis, the language we're using this time around. So the description from Norton is that it is a writing genre in which a writer looks at what a text says and how it says it. Key features, we're going to have something, maybe a little bit of a summary of the text perhaps. And we want to draw attention to the context. We don't want to just say, oh, it's there. We want to say, like, what is this? Why is it here? What's happening? We want a clear interpretation or judgment. And again, judgment is good here, like criticism. We're looking at saying, what do we believe it's doing and saying? That's our judgment. But our judgment is a space for us to explore what it could mean and what it means to us, which can be very different things. And we want to have reasonable support for our conclusions, which you'll see in our story that I have an alternative reading that you're not going to find out there in the world, and that I believe I'm right. So when we're looking at all those things, that's what we're looking at. We would also look again at literary analysis or at literary criticism. So how are we going to do this? We are going to read Ernest Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants. It's a short story, a couple of pages, but we're going to spend these weeks on it. We're going to keep looking at it. We're going to do some quizzes on it. We're going to look at that particular work critically in terms of writing and structure by reviewing an article. So I'm going to give you 4 possibilities to start with, but again, you don't have to stay there. If you don't like any of them, if you don't like the one you've read, reach out to me. I'm perfectly happy to support you. And we're going to write an essay responding to the text. What is the author doing? How did the author accomplish that? What do we see in here? And that involves a couple of steps, which we have another video for, all about Hills Like White Elephants, where I lay out a lot of possibilities, and then you can deep dive into any of them. So our article list, I've pulled up 4 of these just to give you a broad array, hopefully. So we have Timothy O'Brien here with allusion, wordplay on the central conflict and Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants. We have Deborah Tall's The Where of Writing, Hemingway's sense of place. So where are we having this particular scene? Lewis Weeks Jr. writes Hemingway's Hills, Symbolism, and Hills Like White Elephants. And finally, Mei Hong Wu describes a really interesting concept about teaching the story. She talks about construction of mind story and decoding reading, which is essentially all reading is. The same way we decode math, where we have lots of codes and we break them, that's what we're doing with the written language itself as well. It is a code, and we decode that to process what everyone's doing. And the subtitle here is The Approach to an Empirical Teaching on Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants. So again, you're only going to be reading one of these. You get to pick, but hopefully you'll find at least one of them interesting to skim, to explore a bit. And you are absolutely welcome to say, I kind of like this idea of place, or I want to go for a totally different theme. Please help me find a work about it. So the assignment purpose, why are we doing all of this? For our second major assignment, we're writing this analysis of theme or a message or an argument within Ernest Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants. There are 2 key purposes here. Identify one main theme or argument within the story. So we want to be able to pick up anything we read, an academic article, a story, a memoir, things that we've been looking at so far where we picked an epiphany to explore. And we want to say, I know at least one thing that it's talking about. Second, we want to explore how the author expresses that theme or argument by analyzing his use of writing techniques. So maybe we want to look at a particular theme through symbol or conflict or place. You're going to choose one, two, or three, but not too many of these to analyze it with. You could even pick perhaps three metaphors. So you can go with like one thing and sort of break it down, or you could say, well, I want to look at metaphors and conflict and embrace a wider scale. So some key features of these concepts: purpose and thesis. We're going to focus on one argument. So we really want to look at that story and decide what exactly we want to explore. And then we're going to use writing techniques to develop our theme and argument. We want that critical analysis. What exactly are we finding? What are other people saying about that? Because if we found something interesting, like I said about my argument, I'm basically the only person saying it. So that should raise some red flags. But I have a good case and I need to get it out there, right? So we're looking at that space and we're looking at how are people talking about these words? How are they using them so that we can support our case? Organization, we're going to look at that basic 5-paragraph essay approach. We're going to build up the idea with our introduction. We're going to support it with at least 3 paragraphs, and we're going to have a conclusion. Evidence and support, remember those quotes. We're going to need a quote from the story itself, at least one, and we're going to need at least one quote from an outside source. Again, it could be one of the provided articles, or it could be something that you bring in. And of course, MLA formatting, we're practicing still. We want to get those, 12-point New Times Roman font, double spaced, all that good stuff, and we are practicing our citations and our references. So first, you're going to identify a topic you want to explore. You're reading the story and you're saying, what's in here? What's happening? And you're checking out the video I share in case you get a little bit stuck. Second, we want to find a theme or message about that topic. So maybe it's about relationships. Well, what about relationships? What specifically do you want to look at? A lot of times I use an example of love. Like there are tons and tons and tons of stories about love, right? Absolutely. But there are stories about love finding a way through everything, and love conquering all. There are stories about love lost. There are stories about love between couples, between parents and children, like sort of familial love, and all kinds of possibilities here. So I won't bore you with all of them, but think about maybe 2 favorite love stories you like to explore, and you may find some key differences. Third, we want to explore how Hemingway expresses that chosen theme. Is he sharing about relationships through symbols or metaphor, through place, through conflict? How is he making you see, feel, and experience that idea? Next, we want to focus on what interests you. This isn't sort of next. This is super duper important. I don't want to press you to explore one of the items I shared just because I shared it. I want you to say, okay, these are some ideas she shares. Is that interesting to me? Is there something else I see that I want help in exploring more? Find something that fascinates you, because you're going to spend a couple of weeks here with it. And then, of course, we have a sample literary analysis on a totally different topic, but it gives you an idea of someone reading the story, talking about a story, using quotes to explore a theme they're looking at in that story. So we are practicing all of these ideas because they're going to be useful in pretty much every class you take whenever you are reading or writing something. So you may not go ahead to read stories, but you're definitely going to go ahead and read academic articles, and you're going to read academic information, and you're going to need to know how to digest that and share it. And so we're doing the fun version of reading a story to get there. So I will see you out there as we analyze and explore and share.